Okay, guys, sorry to make an introduction just as we're getting started here, but we are going to go ahead and try and stay on time. This is the WebRTC track this morning, and we're delighted to kick it off with Alberto Gonzalez Trastroy. He's a software engineer at Atlassian, and interestingly enough is also a former ITM student here at IIT and was a researcher in the RTC lab for Carol, and he's going to talk about using WebRTC for telepresence.
Thank you so much. Just a small detail there. I'm from WebRTC Ventures, but the rest is completely right. Yeah.
I'm waiting to see if it's true. Fake news, Lauren. We get an Atlassian speaker later.
Yeah, that's why.
Sorry.
So, well, thank you everybody for being here that early. I'm, as you said, a developer at WebRTC Ventures. We are like a development shop focused on real-time applications. And today I'm going to present, I will talk about the WebRTC trends that we see today from our point of view, and I will also talk about some use cases where WebRTC can provide telepresence. So, yeah, a few years ago, for me, like I was around maybe 12 years old. My first computer, XP, had this cool remote desktop connection, and once I discovered that, me and my brother, we had so much fun with my mom, joking and connecting to her computer at the other side of the house. And for me, was amazing at the beginning when I could remote control the computer and so on. Obviously, today this is super basic stuff, but at that moment was something that caught my eye, and maybe that's the reason why I chose this path to keep developing on WebRTC. So from this beginning, or this first introduction to something like very between quotes telepresence thing, I passed to work with WebRTC. Well, everybody here probably already super familiar with this, but this is basically just the minimum WebRTC architecture, where you would have like a couple of clients, one using Chrome, another in this case Firefox, and there will be an intermediate signaling server for letting the other peer know when to start and communicate later using the RTC peer connection. So today I'm going to talk about some stats context of WebRTC, about some parts of a survey we sent to some WebRTC developers last month, and I will talk about a little bit about them, and then I will follow with applications of telepresence, new applications, and the challenges I've been experiencing, and some of the opportunities we see in the WebRTC field. So this is from, those stats are coming from the Chrome team, and they show a pretty optimistic trend in WebRTC, where we have a 3 times increase in only 1 year of usage. The 40% of the traffic comes from US, China, and India, so the big countries are using it. We have already 1,300 or more companies registered that are based on WebRTC, and there are also a lot of, like, more than 9,500 downloads of the mobile WebRTC library. On the other side, in more the corporative world, in the CPAAS world, also there are very encouraging trends where the expected growth seems to be also increasing dramatically, or expected to increase dramatically for the next few years, and a lot of events, acquisitions are still happening. So it seems, from what we see, WebRTCs and real-time applications are growing, are still growing. And how we reached here, well, it all started with Chrome open sourcing, or Google open sourcing WebRTC in 2011. At that point, I almost didn't know about WebRTC. When I came, it was already available for Firefox in 2013, then 2015 for Edge, and finally 2017 for Safari, which made like WebRTC available in most of the browsers. And today, it's already being discussed. The WebRTC 1.0 is already there, and it's already being discussed. The next version of WebRTC, where very new cool features might appear there, like WebRTC, headless WebRTC, or adding quick on some of the actions that happen in WebRTC. So, WebRTC for telepresence. Well, what's telepresence? It's basically operating a machine remotely and giving the effect of being there remotely. It can be imaginary, or in this case, I will focus more on a real location and not things like VR or things like that. And why telepresence? Well, why real-time communication? It has some benefits: reduce of travel, reduce of carbon footprint, improve work-life balance, and productivity. All or most of them related with money, actually. So it seems that not only network neutrality is about money, it's also WebRTC. And why WebRTC for telepresence? There are other technologies that could have the same, complete the same kind of task, but in this case, WebRTC has some benefits that others doesn't. Well, it's open source. Its development is much more affordable. It's easy to implement, so you can have a web developer and maybe he doesn't have experience with WebRTC, but he can kind of learn the basics pretty quick. And also there is increasing internet speed growth. Here we have a chart of the average megabytes per second or bandwidth in the US, and this exponential growth that basically shows that this limit that we had a few years ago of just we are not able maybe to stream because the bandwidth it's not real anymore, or it's less of a problem. It's still there, but this is encouraging, of course. And then what are the WebRTC industry verticals that we detected? Or, well, we launched this survey about, to all the WebRTC developers, and we tried to see where is WebRTC today. We have been launching this survey like for 3 years, and based on that, we identify these major industry verticals, and we see telehealth, online education, and video, chat, and social being the 3 major verticals, although there are many others that also bring a lot of interest, but these 3 seem to be the winners in terms of interest. So on the healthcare use case, this is just an example of something we built. It was just a product for therapists to connect with people that needs a therapist. In this case, we are focusing more on mental health, because it's a field which actually people is a little bit concerned about talking about that. Still, it's something that people is not comfortable to talk. So we are trying to break this bridge, bring this bridge and connect to the therapists. Of course, these kind of solutions need to add. It's like a one-to-one communication using WebRTC. In this case, adding HIPAA because in this kind of all that is related with telehealth, you need to complain with that, which is basically portability. It needs to be integral. It needs to provide integrity and fraud and control abuse. Another interesting use case we work on is surveillance or security cameras. In this case, it's just a proof of demo, but we have worked on it for production projects. And basically, you have, in this case, we use just a Raspberry Pi, or you can use any other small device, even embedded can do that. You add Chromium on top of it, and you just can be able to simulate to have a WebRTC call stream. In this case, we opted for mesh network because the client didn't need to provide a live stream to a large audience. In other situations, probably it will be different. But in this case, it's cool. We could use WebRTC native, which is like it is today. Another example or use case of WebRTC using some kind of telepresence is TrainWith. It's just an app we built for trainers to live stream or interactive broadcasting to all the people that want to train. So what is interesting here is we need to differentiate between live broadcasting and interactive broadcasting. In this case, we apply the second one because it allows just the clients or the players using their iOS device to interact directly with the trainer, and you kind of combine. Maybe there is a broadcaster, and then the trainer can join another trainer, or just someone that needs help can have one-on-one. So you combine these two flows. So those are the common ones. What about the new technologies? How are they being integrated with WebRTC? Based on our WebRTC survey, we found that most of the people is interested on AI. These WebRTC developers, 70% said that they are planning to integrate some kind of AI solution or AI platform or something, some AI in their application, followed with having maybe some embedded system, and closely follow also with AR. So those are like the three main new technologies that seems to catch more attention to WebRTC developers. So for AI, for example, what we see when we integrate AI with WebRTC is just scratching the surface of what is AI, but actually it's pretty cool because you already see some even production-ready requests for using it. Like speech-to-text is the most basic use case, but it's pretty common today. Sentiment analysis, which is more about analyzing what words and tones you use. Then AI assistant in call, and follow with some also proof of concepts we made with image recognition. Not that common though. And one of the other options we have when integrating WebRTC with new technologies with IoT. Well, the market is huge. The IoT market is expected, according to Gartner, it's 20 billion internet-connected things in 2020. It's important to point out that WebRTC doesn't apply to all of these cases, but it might be useful in some of them. For example, for device control, for getting emergency alerts that need very low latency, and it has a relatively high frequency, or video and audio, of course, is the preferred environment for WebRTC. So, yeah, we have to differentiate between this typical IoT device that maybe sends some sensor information once a day, which in this case maybe MQTT or other protocols might be better. But if it's something that is real-time acting and reacting, that's where WebRTC seems a great candidate. And finishing with the use cases, we have the integration of AR and VR in WebRTC. What we saw from our survey is that AR awakens twice more interest than VR to WebRTC developers. So I guess it makes sense because we have seen more use cases. For probably an example would be like Pokemon Go having this becoming that famous 1 year ago, and everybody know about it, right? So there are other use cases we also see. We don't work that much yet, but some companies are starting to implement AR using some lens for the Show Me segment, which is the segment where you go to a remote location and you need an expert on something, and this expert would lead you or teach you how to repair something or control some machinery. So what are the challenges? Those challenges are UI, connection, scalability, testing, and security. Those challenges appear also when developing software development, so that's just another example of it where we have this. One of the survey responses just show us what are the biggest technical challenges for WebRTC development. The response was quite interesting. We saw that things like mobile device support, Safari support, Internet Explorer, it's becoming less of a challenge today, much less actually. And we have things like having technical expertise, reliable connection are things that are becoming more important and are the main challenges for WebRTC applications. So in this last survey, we added a few new challenge options, which were, two of them were testing and scalability. Seems that those are the results of 2018, and we see that, reliable connection and technical support are main challenges, but follow with that, testing and scalability is huge, and it's something that we actually feel ourselves from requests from customers. So we talk. What are the challenges? We said the first one is UI, and in this case is slightly different than the common approach one-to-one, where you have just a video caller callee, and you see the two video screens, and that's it. And in this case, there is no preview. We don't need a preview because usually the flow for Telepresence apps goes from the video stream comes from the edge, and you are usually not video streaming it's the machine or the device remotely streaming to you, and you just send data, which is much less heavy. And also, an important thing that we need to add in this kind of applications is feedback. We need to, sometimes the video is not enough, so we need need to detect the proximity. You need some sensors to make you feel and control properly a remote machine, for example. And this is just an example of how the flow changes a little bit. In this case, when you build the Telepresence app, let's say a remote machine that just, or remote track, autonomous track, let's get crazy. No, so the issue here is that there is a slower initiation time with this kind of applications, because usually you don't want the device to be active all the time, and that just delays the start. So you have this trade-off of slower initiation time or having more battery consumption and being always connected to the signaling server. Another very common challenge when building a WebRTC Telepresence app, well, there are three. Bandwidth is one, latency is another one, and internet availability is another one. Regarding bandwidth, the challenge is that it changes completely how the requirements we had before for a one-to-one or one-to-many. In this case, the upstream link from the machine is sending video, audio, and data. So it needs an upper link with higher bandwidth, and the downlink is actually just sending data. So many times we don't need much, which is quite of the opposite of what we have in our phones, which usually downloading is faster. Latency, also hard to overcome. You have to find the closest path. You use probably CDN replication for finding the signaling server faster. There are some interesting things coming for solving that, but this is still something to take into account. And another challenge is the internet availability, because you have the machine remotely in a location where you maybe don't have a Wi-Fi access, or maybe they change the password, and now what? The machine will get stuck there. You won't be able to remote control what you do. So there are some products appearing lately, which most of them come from telecoms, which try to provide a solution for IoT and give special SIM cards for IoT devices that are sending only sensor data. In our case, if you are using WebRTC, obviously that won't work, so you need to find, probably in this case, a hybrid model would be better, where you have, for sending very infrequent data, you have this IoT SIM card, and for frequent or video, you would use a SIM card like the ones we use for mobile, 4G, 5G. And regarding the scalability, that's very common to have the following three main issues. One is when you have, this is commonly appears in WebRTC native applications, or also if you use some media server, also it happens. If you have a signaling server with thousands of connections, you won't have the limitation only in the video, but also in the signaling, because finally there is a limit if you have a lot. So you might need to load balance the signaling server, or even optimize the WebSocket protocol for turning off some features or trying to optimize resources there. And then there is another solution also for faster establishment using Quick, but it's not there yet. Then we have the decision between custom and against platform. So are you going to build it from scratch or use open source media server, or just have a peer-to-peer? From what we have seen in the 3 latest surveys, every year more people accepts or is using media servers in the middle. 67% of respondents are using some kind of media server, and yeah, the increase has been increasing for the latest 3 years. And then testing also becomes a challenge with different testing automations per browser, scalability test kitting, orchestration of, yeah. I mean basic one-to-one video call, or like when I say peer-to-peer would be like if I call you through WebRTC, it will be one-to-one. So that's what I mean. Peer-to-peer, from one. Yeah. And finally, the security challenge of having telepresence applications or remote devices. One of the common cases that we see today is some companies are bringing these smart cameras, smart locks for opening doors, and you being able to connect there. Some of them seem to be using WebRTC for that, but there are security challenges there where the hardware can be tempered in some situations, and we need to take into account that. It's not the same that having a call to a computer, which usually is next to the user. These machines are expected maybe to be for days uncontrolled, so we need to take into account this. And then there is also the wireless transmission when you have several sensors. So this leads a little bit to IoT security, which I won't touch, but it's something challenging there. So from all these challenges of telepresence, there are a lot of new opportunities coming. We have improvements from a lot of great development teams, bringing things like VP9, AV1 for better optimization of the use of bitrate, I would say. Being able to use CPU in exchange of bandwidth. Then there is also Electron for developing for different platforms. In some cases, it can become easier to maintain. We have in theory, it's still just applied in some Google websites and applications, but Quick, it seems in theory very interesting for signaling, for example, where we could be able, for a telepresence app, we could be able to start this call faster by using Quick instead of what we use today. We have also the Selenium WebDriver, and following with that, the new tool built by great development teams for testing, WebRTC testing, called Kite. And also we have the IoT SIEMs, which are bringing this solution that actually we were looking for a few years ago, and now fits perfectly for these use cases we have. So finally, you have these opportunities. You see that WebRTC is growing. So how we usually develop an application, there are 3 levels or 3 ways to build an application. You have the plugins, would be kind of a WordPress style thing, where you just use some snippets from or hello words, and you just do one-to-one calls, for example, very basic video chats. And that's frequent, but each time is less frequent, and we see more requests for fully customizable or CPAAS. And we saw that from our survey, we saw that the two characteristics that we mostly see or we mostly value from other teams is communication with them and knowledge of the technology. So concluding, WebRTC is the go technology for telepresence. There are very interesting opportunities coming that will let you build better telepresence apps. Healthcare, education, and social video chat applications are dominating, and in the new technologies, AI in RTC applications is what arises most of the interest, and especially today in speech analytics. That's all I have today to explain. Thank you very much.
Alberto, thank you.